Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. It's Marilyn. In this video, I'm going to show you how to design these earrings using a free software called Inkscape. Now when I first started Inkscape, I was super intimidated by it. I waited a long time. I tried it again. By then they had updated their software. There were videos on YouTube showing me how to do certain things, and I've really increased my knowledge and confidence. And I think if you give it a try, you'll find that you can use Inkscape also. Then I pulled the design into my Glowforge cutting software and I cut these with my Glowforge laser cutter. So if you're interested in either Inkscape or Glowforge, keep watching. I'll link to several of the things that I used for these, and I will put my discount code for a Glowforge in the description of the video. If you use that discount code, you can receive from $100 to $500 off your Glowforge, depending upon which model you select. And then I receive a referral fee, which I greatly appreciate. I'll also link to several things I used in the video in the description below. Now let's get on with the video. In my last video, I made these earrings using Cricut Design Space and my Cricut Maker. But today I want to show you how you can make basically the same earrings using Inkscape, which is a free design software. This is what the opening screen on Inkscape looks like. And this rectangle is just a template for you to use in case you're needing to stay within a certain size box. I don't really mess with it, but it would be helpful if you're making a design for cards or something like that. Again, I just ignore it. I want to zoom in, so I'm going to hold the shift down. While it's held down, I'll hit the plus sign on my keyboard, and that zooms in. So the first part of my earring that we're going to make is the donut shape in the middle. So we'll click on the circle and we'll start dragging. Notice that's not a perfect circle. There's two ways you can get it to be a perfect circle. The first way is hold the control button down and drag, and it'll snap to a perfect circle. Now, let's get it imperfect. The second way is you go up to select. You do have to select it. Once you select it, the size and proportions show up here. So it was here, and you can't see it, and then you hit the select and it shows up. Mine defaults to millimeters, so first I'll change it to inches. Then it's unlocked, which in this case you want it to be so that you can change the width and the height independently. I want my width to be 1.75 inches in diameter, and I want my height to be the same so that it will be a perfect circle. Now that it is, I'll go ahead and lock it. Then I think I'll get a color that's easier on the eyes. Now, to get the donut shape in it, we're going to use something very similar to Slice in Cricut Design Space. First, it's still selected, so I'll hit Command-C for copy, Command-V for paste. Then I'll change it a different color so I can see really where it is. I want the size of my inside circle to be 1.15 inches. Now it's locked right here, so when I change this, it'll change the height by the same amount, and since they were the same, it'll change them both to 1.15. Now I want to show you something that's different between Cricut Design Space and Inkscape, and it was a little frustrating at first until I understood it. If I were to draw this line around these objects or through these objects on Cricut Design Space, it would select both of those. In Inkscape, it's not going to select either one because I'm not all the way around either one. So it didn't select anything. Or in Design Space, this would select both, but in Inkscape, it's only going to select the small circle. So you just have to remember to be all the way around them. I'm going to use an align function to get the little circle in the middle of the big circle. So there's two ways to find it. I could click on this right here where it says Align and Distribute over on my panels side, or I could go up to Object and then down to Align and Distribute. Either way, it's going to give you your options for aligning and distributing right here. And we're going to use the Align function. First, we're going to center them on the vertical axis. They'll go on a straight up and down axis. And then from side to side, it's going to move that small blue circle down to the middle of the dark one. Now they're both still selected, so you go to Path and Difference, and that's like Slice. and so it takes the middle out of the larger circle. Let's go ahead and move it over and make the screen even larger. So I want a circle up here that's 0.6 inches. I'm going to click on circle again, drag it, go back to the select. I'll have to unlock the proportions, and then 0.6 by 0.6. And I can lock those back. And then I also want to change the color so that it matches the rest of my earring. Now I need 3 circles down here, so I'll click on this one and hit Command C for copy, Command V for paste. I'll drag that one down, and then I want it to be 0.43 inches. So I'll change it up in the width, and because it's blocked, it'll change it in both places. I need 2 more of those, so I'll hit Command C again, and then Command V. I'll hit it twice. Now I'm just going to get these generally into position. We'll fix them a little bit more in a minute. Okay, they're going to look something like that. But to really perfect them, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to align these outside 2 so that they're the same height on the screen. So I'll click on the left one, hold Shift down, click on the right one, and then I'm going to click on this center on the horizontal axis. And I love how they have the red lines going through, so you see really an example of what you're doing. So I'll click those. Now they are the same height. Now you might think, well, that's too close to that. We'll deal with that. We haven't dealt with this large donut yet. Okay, so now I want to make sure there's equal space between here and here. It looks like there is. They're very close. So I don't even know if we'll notice any movement here. But for that, we're going to use this distribute function. I'll click on that. Let's see if it moves. They really didn't. So we're going to make this a little bit more extreme. I'll move that over. Okay, let's go back to the aligning. And then we'll add the 3rd circle to it. Now we'll distribute, and probably what you'll see is that middle circle move a little bit to the right. And that's what happened. Now you can't have your circles down here be too large. You are going to connect the circles to the donut with a jump ring. And I don't want to have to use huge jump rings to do that. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and move these a little bit closer together. And then I'll go through the process one more time just to make sure they're where they should be. Now, for now, I'm going to go ahead and group those. So I'll click on Object and Group. And the reason I did that is because I want to make sure everything is centered where it should be. So let's make the screen go out just a little bit. I'll select everything in the design, and I'll get it centered before we start making the holes for the earrings. Okay, so everything is adjusted where it should be. There's 2 ways for the Glowforge to put holes in your earrings. One, you could actually make a hole in the design. So just like I made this hole here. I'd start with a little circle. I'll change it a different color. And then I'll change the size. I'm going to use 0.06. It's pretty typical for me to use 0.05, 0.06, or 0.07 on the holes for my earrings. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste so I have one on reserve. So if I wanted for my design to show an actual hole, I'd put it about where I want it. I'd center it up. Then I'd go up to Path, Difference, and I have a hole just like I do here. That is not the way I like to do it when I'm cutting on the Glowforge. So I'm going to go back. When I'm cutting on the Glowforge, I like to just put little circles in a different color. By using a different color, number 1, you can see it, but number 2, the Glowforge will bring it in as its own layer. When you take something into the Glowforge as its own layer, you can manipulate which layer cuts first. And what I have found with some materials, it's very important that the little bitty piece get cut before the larger piece. It doesn't happen as much on leather, but if you're cutting something with cardstock, if you cut the little bit larger pieces first and then it goes back to cut this little circle, because of the airflow going through, it's going to blow and this can shift some. And then when it cuts your circle's not in the right place. Again, the majority of times I've seen that is when I'm using cardstock. But I like to make it a habit just to take them in as their own layer and cut them first with the Glowforge. So, for that reason, that's how I'm going to do it today. Let me make a few more of these. So I'll place those about where I want them. And then I'll go ahead and just center everything on the vertical axis. I like to put the ones I'm going to have in the centers first, and then just ever so often I'll align them. Okay, so we have two more. Let's just make some more copies of this. We have two more that need to go about right here and about right here. It's important that this hole is directly above the center of this earring, because if it's not, let me show you. Let's say the hole were over here. Then you attach this hole to the hole in this earring with a jump ring. Because of gravity, if your jump ring is from here to here, when gravity takes effect, this little piece of the earring is just going to slide this way, and it's going to be on top of that when they're behind it. They're not going to be in the right place. So it needs to be about in the center of this earring. I'm going to adjust this one just a little bit. Now, just like we use the align and distribute functions down here, we're going to do the same thing with the holes. So I'm going to pick the outside two holes and then make sure they're on the same horizontal axis. And then I'm going to add the third hole to it. And then I'm going to distribute them horizontally. Okay, very slight movement because they were already pretty much where they needed to be. Now I'll just go ahead and put my little holes down here. So there's our full design. We're going to go ahead and say File, Save As. Okay, I'm bringing my design in. And there it is. You can see the bed of my Glowforge because I've already turned the Glowforge on. There's no materials in it yet. But I wanted you to see what I was talking about the two layers. So here's all my little holes, and there's the main part of my earring. Whatever's at the top is going to cut first. So I'm going to drag that layer up, and now it's going to cut the holes first. And you can barely see them highlighted on the screen over here. Let me go ahead and blow that up some. Okay, there's my design. I want two earrings, so I'm going to select the whole thing. Command C, Command V. Now what I could have done to save space is I could have designed it where this was in the center here. That way you wouldn't waste this extra space. Like that. Now what I did before was I actually took the little circles and I put them inside. So I'm just going to re-upload that, and there you go. Again, your little holes came in as a second layer, so you just drag that to the top and it'll cut those first. Select the whole design, Command C, Command V. I'm going to go ahead and put some material on the bed of the Glowforge so that you can see it on this screen. Now this leather is dark, so it's somewhat hard to see where everything is. Now we're ready to use the settings. So you go up to unknown materials. Since there's no QR code, it's not a proof grade material. So you click on use uncertified. I measured mine after I put the masking tape on the front and the back, and it was 0.06 inches thick. So we'll submit that. Now we need to enter our settings, and we'll have to enter them twice since we have 2 layers. First, I'm going to select that I want it to cut. Then on the manual settings, I'm going to select a speed of 225 and then full power. And I just need 1 pass. I'll use the same settings. Click on Cut, Manual Settings, speed of 225 and full power. So you can really see with the red line where it's going to cut. I'll select Print. Now that it's calculated the cut time, it shows it's going to take 52 seconds. It does give you a warning that, hey, you're not using proof grade materials. So basically make sure you understand how what you're using can react to a laser. Now, before I start the Glowforge cutting, I want to show you 2 things. These are some digital calipers, and these are a lifesaver. I tried to start with some inexpensive manual ones, or you have to read it manually. They were like $2 at Harbor Freight. I moved to these. These are still very inexpensive. I'll link to them, and they are a lifesaver. And then the other thing is I always mask my leather with this masking tape. Kind of hard to see the whole thing. I'll link to this on Amazon also. Well worth the money. I've just turned on my filter, so it's gotten a little bit louder. So let me go ahead and hit that blue button and we'll watch it cut. Those turned out really nice. So I'll go ahead and take these back to my craft room, put them together. Here's what I'll be using to put my earrings together. I got this set of jump rings off of Amazon. I'll link to that. I really like this. Now, they are not sterling silver, but I do use sterling silver for the wire that's going through my ear. So I'll link to these as well. Then I have a jump ring opener and closer tool. Little bitty set of needle nose pliers. Got those from Harbor Freight. And then another set in case I need a second set. I'll go ahead and take the rest of the masking paper off of these. And I love the Glowforge for the precision that you get on these little bitty holes. Perfectly placed, as long as you perfectly place them in your design. So I'll start with one earring and then I'll fast forward through a lot of it so you don't get too bored. And I'll show you a picture at the end. Notice I twist it to the side. I don't pull it apart. So there's the first step. Then we'll put in all these little jump rings. I like to hold on to it, going up and down right by the opening, and then put the wire in the smallest little slot that it'll fit in this opener. There's 4 different sizes. Just twist to the side. Get your two little pieces of leather on there and then just twist it right back into place. If you find that it's not closing quite tight enough, then you can just, and that's not even closed straight. Okay, there we go. That looks closed up pretty well. If it wasn't closed tight enough, just gently push them together. Don't push too hard or you will bend the wire and it'll go out of shape. So I'll just follow that process 3 more times. These are soft enough that you can just do it by hand. Some metals are, some aren't. Now, I'm not saying it's flimsy. I'm just saying you can manipulate it with your hand. Oh yeah, that's kind of tough that way. It's easier to open them with your hand than to close them. That looks good. So there's the first earring. I'll finish the second one, show you the picture at the end. Thanks so much for joining me and sticking it out to the end. I sure appreciate it. Until the next video, stay safe. See you then, guys.